Short Time Wrestling Podcast, getting ready for Budapest 2018. That's an update too. Hashtag BudaWrestle 2018, as it was drawn out by United World Wrestling in the past couple days. Today, our guest is Matt Lindland, USA Wrestling Greco-Roman national team coach. He'll be talking about our Greco-Roman team as far as Team USA is concerned. Already in Hungary. Matt, one, welcome to the program, and two, has the jet lag set in yet? So where's the team training now? We got 22 days until competition as we record this on October 3rd. So just take us through what the plan is now with acclimation and training camp now that you guys are in country. What's interesting about Budapest and Hungary in general in terms of its wrestling history is, one, the building we're going to be wrestling in, Laszlo Pop, that was where the Worlds were held in 2013, named after a wrestler. The guy was also a boxer, but he's named after a wrestler. So one, you've got the wrestling culture there. Two, we go freestyle, women's freestyle. Greco-Roman is the finale here, and that's because the Hungarians love their Greco. Yeah, and as we saw at the Junior Worlds in Trnava, Slovakia, there were 260 entries in Junior Greco. There were 248 in Junior Freestyle, and we're on that path right now as the senior entries are being released there. But when we look at the dynamic of the team coming in, you've got old, you've got young, you've got medalists, you've got, before we go weight by weight, this team is very, very diverse. I mean, and what's it like to kind of go through planning and training camp with guys that have had, say, junior level success, and then there's old guys, and old being relative, like Sam Hazewinkle? One thing you talked about, the camps at USA Wrestling. There's been some renovations there in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center, and what used to be a narrow mat setup, and you'd have teams tripping over each other. Now you've got a just gigantic wrestling room. What's that been like for the synergy between all three teams to be able to balance their training cycles and training camps? What's one thing that you feel maybe you talk about the parterre workouts, but the freestylers, they get the feel with Greco, and I mean, look at it like how easy are these Greco guys turning these freestylers on top? I say no more. That one's pretty easy. Now, as we go and look at the participation and performance in Trnava, talking from a developmental standpoint, Kamal Bey was a returning world champion, finished fifth, had a tight match in the semis, and then fell to the world champion, who he had to a world silver medalist he had defeated the year before in the world finals. And you said he's not getting over there until the 10th. What's the conversation like with Kamal after coming off of, it wasn't a bad performance, but it wasn't what I guess people were expecting to have another world championship in Greco-Roman. What about mid-match, mid-tournament adjustments? Because it was one thing that the Russian opponent seemed to really tie him up with a 2-on-1, and you said you're focusing on the negative wrestling, blocking with the head and things, but a guy at this level should be able, especially from Illinois, where they hit the 2-on-1 so well at the developmental age. What is the key to making those type of adjustments moving forward into Budapest? As we move towards the team, I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about the team selection and the process this year. Men's and women's freestyle had a 3-weekend event and tournaments building up to it called Final X, where Greco took things into the junior duels in terms of the trials procedure. And from a coaching standpoint, what was the rationale on the Greco side of say, we're going to be on our own this year? when we look at where you did have it, you had it as part of the junior duels, and you had a lot of teenagers with their eyes on Greco. I mean, that has to be a positive in terms of looking to build the brand and build the development of Greco-Roman wrestling. When we break down the team now, we've got starting at 55 kilos, the weight has kind of dropped back down to something that you look at the entry list, there's not a whole lot of returning medalists and a lot of returning participants from previous world championships because the weight was higher. And you've got 35-year-old Sam Hazewinkle, who had made the team in freestyle back in 2012 at the Olympics. And he's got that Greco-Roman pedigree with his dad and his uncle both being on multiple world and Olympic teams. And, what's it mean to have Sam fully on a team in Greco-Roman now? As we look forward to the next weight, Dalton Roberts, this is a kid from Fowlerville, Michigan, been training up at Northern Michigan, where I want to talk a little bit about Northern Michigan for a bit because about 10 years ago, Northern Michigan really churning out the B6, the Lesters, the Mangos, and what is this next generation of Northern guys doing with the Greco-Roman program? What is the expectation for Dalton going into this event? Moving to 63, Jesse Thielke, a guy that's brings a little bit of spunk to the team. He's got a little edge to him. He's a junior world bronze medalist back in 2012 in Pattaya, which was by far the best trip I've ever been on in my life. And I kid because that place was anyway. Coming off made the Olympic team down at a weight he thought he was done. What's it been like to see Jesse coming through this time? Does he seem to have that fire again? Another Olympian that's got some experience and also has a junior world medal, Ellis Coleman. Andy Hamilton had written on Track Wrestling. It's been a number of years since the flying squirrel video went viral and really brought Ellis into the forefront, not just of Greco-Roman wrestling circles, but wrestling and Olympic circles as a whole. And Ellis has still been looking for that breakthrough performance at the senior level. And what's the expectation again? And what has Ellis's training been like leading into Budapest? 'When you got a guy that makes a team so young, especially at the Olympic level, and then 6 years go by, they grow up, they mature not just as athletes but as people. How does training change? Maybe using your own experience, how does training change as you mature and you get older? Maybe as that piss and vinegar 20-year-old to that little more reserved, smarter not harder type of 26-year-old. 72 kilos. John J. Chavez, NCAA All-American at Cornell, trains up with Ahad up in Ithaca. And one of the few wrestlers that you've got that have that Division One background. I mean, granted, you've a Hayes Winkle who was four-time All-American at Oklahoma, but then You've got, Thielke spent a little bit of time at Wisconsin, but Chavez is currently a college athlete. Martinez had Wyoming and Kearney, and then Adam Kuhn coming off the college mats. But Chavez he's in Ithaca. He's got a different training environment than everybody else does. I mean, he's got a cadet world medal to his credit a couple years ago, and a breakthrough for him. I mean, what do you expect? It's almost repeating the same question, but what do you expect out of this guy? And to give you some background on Chavez's international competition at the weights at cadets in 2013, where he wrestled both styles, he was 69 kilos. The junior worlds in 2014 and 2015, 3 or 4 years ago, he was at 74. So he's 2 kilos lighter, which is 4.4 pounds and change if you want to get into the metric system, mumbo jumbo. But that also brings up a question about the weigh-in procedure. You got a guy like Chavez. He's used to the short weigh-in from the college mats and having to do that for the last 2 seasons. But a lot of these international wrestlers they're going through it really maybe for their first real cycle. And you're a guy that's gone through various different weigh-in procedures throughout the course of your career. How are the athletes, our Americans, taking to the 2-hour weigh-in system compared to what you've seen internationally? Which also brings up an interesting point. I can't remember where we were at. I think I texted you about it, but the question is like how many NCAA Division I champions have won a Greco-Roman medal? And we're like, well, and we're naming all the medalists and the champs. We're like, well, they were all American. They were all American. They were all American. I think the only one we came out with Brad Veering's the only guy that's won an NCAA title that a Division I title that's medaled in Greco-Roman. We've already touched on Kamal Bay and what he needs to improve at 77, but this also gets to another point with the weigh-ins. We're at 10 weights. You've got a bigger team now than you've ever had in terms of entering world championships. How has that changed? Your practice planning. You're working with Andy Robb at Northern Michigan and Ahad out in Cornell. How has that changed how you oversee the program with 10 weights instead of 8? Yeah, and we've even got a Ben Provisor out there at Penn State. So there's in that free. Well, Mason's actually still on the team too, so that's an interesting aspect. Now, moving to 82, you got a tremendous athlete, a guy with just some explosive stuff. He's just waiting to have that senior level breakthrough. Jordan Spieler, he was on a junior world team in the past. He's got it in a lot of ways. What's it going to take for Jordan to put everything together and not just win a medal, but have an overall really good world championship experience? If you're a wrestling fan and you're trying to watch Greco-Roman, obviously everybody will point to Kamal Bay in terms of he is kind of Greco's human highlight film at this point. But how much are you going to say no? You also need to look at Jordan Spieler too with the stuff that he's got. We're not to that weight yet, Coach. We'll get to that. Yeah, speaking of Zach Dominguez, how do you buy a shirt for that guy? Because that guy's chest is huge. That's what. Hey, you're the one that can deal with him saying that. I'm not saying anything on there. Now, moving. Oh, no comment from here on out. Now, Patrick Martinez is a guy. He's been at a non-Olympic weight. He's gone from 80 to 85, 80 now back 87. Spent some time at Wyoming before ending his career at the Division II level at Nebraska Kearney. Has world championship experience. What's changed in his game? Where has he improved? Where do you expect to see out of him? Now you mentioned D'Angelo Hancock, and his story is pretty cool. It's well documented. I know he's been on the mat talking about it. He's been on 5 Point Move talking about it. But a guy that thought his wrestling career was over, TC Dancer shows up at his door, and a few years later, he body locks and throws one of the most imposing Greco-Roman forces, and I say forces, not wrestlers, but forces, as Arthur Alexanian is a force in the world of Greco-Roman wrestling, pins him, and on the way to a gold medal. And what's one thing that has you have to kind of get in D'Angelo's head and say, look, you can't get complacent. Yeah, it was one win. This guy is going to be really pissed off if you see him the next time. So what's the mindset training in this respect to get into Tracy's head or D'Angelo's head to make sure that he doesn't get ahead of himself now? last year he was on three teams. He was on the U-23, the senior, and the junior. And what do you think he learned out of that experience? What did you learn about him through that experience as a coach? Did the win over Alexanian kind of make Giangelo kind of a marked man in some respects in your mind? Speaking of guys not to body lock, maybe the smartest guy perhaps in the program, Adam Kuhn, is coming over. He tried both styles and comes out and makes the team, beats Robbie Smith, unseats him for the spot, and he's got he's been a triple threat, folk style, freestyle, and Greco his entire career. And when you get this guy in the room, I mean, one, how do you teach a guy this big anything? I mean, who is coaching this guy? always one of the deepest weights, and there are rumors that we may see a giant Cuban coming back. He is. There are two Cubans listed on the entry list. One is Oscar Pino Hines, who has had some success in the wake of Mian Lopez not wrestling, but now Lopez is a potential or competitor at this event. So just as a Greco-Roman wrestling fan, yeah, we're talking about Adam right now, but when you see Lopez at his best, it's really a treat to watch. Like they've done. As we move forward, team wise, they're great Greco-Roman countries. Iran, Russia, Azerbaijan, the entire part of Eastern Europe, the Scandinavian countries. The Chinese are really starting to put some emphasis in Greco. They'll have guys pop in. The Japanese, you never know when they're going to have a guy pop in because they're good at all three styles. So preparation team wise, it's an individual sport with a team component. What's the goal for Team USA as far as Matt Lindland's concerned? As we look at the schedule, competition for Greco-Roman begins on the what appears. Let's see if I can. Wow, I clicked up the completely wrong schedule from that, but it's the 22nd of October in Budapest, Laszlo Pop Sports Arena. We'll be there streaming live on United World Wrestling and Track Wrestling. I'll be there doing the PA. So, Matt, if you've got anything smart remarks for the PA announcer, keep them to yourself. But appreciate the time, Matt. Yeah, I do want to give Danny Blackshear credit, too, because before the juniors, I sat down. I says, okay, negative wrestling. Explain to me, how is this going to be called with the difference between a caution, a passivity? So I got to give Danny the credit, Team USA official, for helping me understand the rules of Greco-Roman, because there are nuanced tweaks from year to year. It's not wholesale changes like it used to be, but still, if I don't know the rules, nobody at home is going to know the rules. And in this case with Budapest, if I don't know the rules, nobody in the arena is going to know the rules. But Matt, appreciate the time. You are over in Hungary, and stay thirsty, my friend. And I'd like to thank Matt Lindland for checking in again, fresh off the plane in Hungary as they prepare for the 2018 Buda Wrestle 2018 Senior World Championships in Budapest. That is Budapest. Yes, Budapest. P-E-H. Yeah, it's Pest. Trust me. All the plosives in this microphone are driving you guys that are audiophiles crazy right now. And I also realized this as I started the show. I didn't introduce who I was. So if this is your first time listening, my name is Jason Bryant. Thank you for listening to this, the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Been plugging along for, a couple hundred episodes. International Podcast Day came and went. And I actually did some numbers. Since November 11th, 2008, when Kyle Klingman and I released our first episode of Wrestling 411, I've released over 1,800 podcast episodes, and that is whether or not I've edited or produced. That's how many I've helped distribute throughout the course of the last almost 10 years of podcasting. Yeah, the 10-year anniversary coming up on 11/11, and Kyle and I are we're gonna pretty much bury that, because some of those early episodes of Wrestling 411 were absolute trash in terms of audio quality. That you can actually go check them out if you go to MadTalkOnline.com and scroll down to the bottom where it has retired shows. These are shows that, the podcast nerds, we say pod faded. I like to say retired, because that does not necessarily, you can come out of retirement. You do you unpod fade? No, you can come out of retirement. These shows have not really left their shoes on the mat. There's a couple that have, USA Wrestling Mat Chat. I don't work there anymore. So obviously that show left its proverbial or its rhetorical, I don't even know. It left its figurative shoes on the mat, as did Wrestling 411, which was a 1 year. Oh yeah, that was Kyle and I have differing opinions on. We're going to talk about that in a future episode when we get Kyle on, when he's on this show versus when I'm on his show on the mat, which I did fill in for him in Slovakia. Again, MadTalkOnline.com. Scroll to the bottom, you can hear the very first episode of Wrestling 411. And I really don't advise you to listen to it. Tom Brands was the host. That was November of 2008. And, a lot's happened in 10 years. But, man, the audio quality. We did it at Augsburg, then Augsburg College's studios, KAUG. It sucked. I mean, it really did. But a lot of stuff happening here with the podcast network now, MadTalkOnline.com. That's where you listen. That's where you contribute. Like Mike Chick, thank you for your contribution. And Kevin Claunch from Blood Round, who has been skipping out on his Blood Round responsibilities as of late. For this thing called fatherhood. BFD, dude. BFD. Nobody cares. No. Anyway, I stepped in for him last week. Richard Immel and Ross Bartachek stepped in for Blood Round, which is not part of the network. They say some things that sometimes I wish I could get away with on this show, but I can't. I'm a little bit more of this is a professional network of, I don't get to say the bleepity bleep bleep bleeps. And anyway, the point I'm making here, before I get totally off tangent, which does happen all the time with the way my brain operates, is Kevin didn't hear his shout out for being a patron. So here's your shout out, Claunch. The only thing I can't do for you now is make your hair grow back. Anyway, congrats to you, and offspring number 3. If there's any luck in this world, you'll take care of situations. You won't have another Claunch running around that we have to deal with in about 18 years. That being said, the shirts from Compound are in. I've been throwing some things out there on the Twitters and the Instagrams. At Jason M. Bryant is where you can find me on those particular things. I'm almost too old to be on the Instagram. I definitely, again, don't do the Snapchat very often because I guess I don't even know. I don't. Who cares? The interface on that thing sucks anyway. So that's what I got. Those shirts, the hats. I'm waiting for Compound. These embroidered hats. And if you're wondering the gear I'm talking about, you can go to MadTalkOnline.com/join the team, or mattalkonline.com/contribute. And that is how you can represent this network and these shows and support the on-demand original content that I've been creating now on my own since I broke away and officially became independent in this world of wrestling. How I began with Matt Talk Online, which started in 1997, how I rebranded it and brought it back in 2014. So short time's been going on, been plugging since 2013. The network came to fruition in 2014, and years of shows. Our Virginia Tech show will be renewed for a 5th season. All sorts of stuff. Cool stuff with the network. Couple new shows coming, and something I am extremely excited to do. Can't let the cat out of the bag yet, but if you like that serialized storytelling type of show, yes, we'll have one of those coming to the network soon, and it's going to be something that's never been done in college athletics. It's something that's never been done in wrestling. It's something that has been done in podcasting, but I'm bringing these things together, and it's going to be able to tell a unique story, and I'm excited to tell it. I'm excited to put my creative skills to use, to more than just sit down and do an interview and say, oh, what do you do this? 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 I mean, there's, I've been doing this journalism thing for over 20 years, and I still need to get better at things. I mean, you never stop getting better. And this is something that's going to test the limits of my creativity and, gonna push where I think I'm strong. Let's see how good I am. It's like I joked when I was trying out for the Timberwolves PA job. All right, am I good enough to do that? Ultimately, yeah, I was. And so we'll see that with this show that's coming. Again, I'm not giving you really anything to go on. So if you like what you hear on this network, mattalkonline.com/contribute. The newsletter, again, is free. Over 1,000 of you get this each and every day. Keep that free. Keep the lights on. mattalkonline.com/join the team. $1, $5, $10 a month, whatever. It's appreciated. And you do not go unappreciated because, annually I send out the gear bags. And yes, to my patrons who have been with me since the beginning, you will be getting the updated T-shirts and gear. It's not just come one, come all. I mixing it up. It's for those of you that have been with me for longer than 2 years, you're going to get the updated shirts. So year 2 is when I'm going to basically kick back things around. So basically the 3rd year you contribute, I'm like, yep, you're going to get some new stuff. So thank you to everybody. If you want to see who has been supporting this program and you wonder, man, maybe I should, well, go to mattalkonline.com/contribute. That's the list of where people are at and the people that care about what I'm doing here. And I know if you're listening, you care, but if you're listening and you like it, rate and review this show or other shows on the network, or just go to mattalkonline.com/contribute, mattalkonline.com/join the team, and throw in $1, $5 a month, your disposable income. You save yourself a Starbucks each month, and as you're in the coffee shop listening to this show, do you want the overpriced bottle of water, or do you want to make sure that I can keep plugging these shows away? That would be that's all I ask. And you know what? Your listenership is enough, but if you want to do one better or two better, I'm not going to complain. And I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because, say it with me now, you've always got time for short time. The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Clothing. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. First time listening? Well, you can change that by going to mattalkonline.com/get-short-time to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or listen on your favorite podcatcher at mattalkonline.com/listen. You happy, Claunch? You got your second freaking shout out. You happy now? Quit bugging me.